Love finances the other F word and want to support the show? Become a patron by going to patreon.com/FTOFW. You'll get special features, a shout out on the air, and early releases. Or if you prefer, pick up some merchandise at financestheotherfword.com.
As fantastic a CFP as Mel O is, as wonderful an attorney as I am, and as good as Stormy is at whatever it is he does, please do note that anything said in our podcasts are our opinions alone and are not meant to be taken as financial or legal advice.
Welcome to Finances, the Other F Word, a Gen Xer podcast for musicians and music lovers, where we discuss money and music without all the pretentious bullshit. Here are your hosts, Zoe Terry, attorney at large, Stormy Andrews, founder of Yokel Local Marketing, and Mel O, certified financial planner and author of Finances, the Other F Word. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey guys, welcome to Finances the Other F Word. I am so fucking excited. You guys have no idea who I have on the show today. Chris Bialek. He is the president of EAC Distributions, and he helps TV series, but mostly movies, finance for their production budget, as well as sell the licensing rights to the movies themselves. Chris, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
You're very welcome.
So he has so many movies under his credit, but I'm just going to touch on a few of them that you might have heard. Platoon, The Big Easy, Total Recall, Terminator 2, which I saw in the theater and was a fucking excellent movie. That's still, in my opinion, the best Terminator. Basic Instinct, Cliffhanger, Showgirls, and The Doors. And so this man has been in the industry for a really long time. So let's get started with this, Chris. So let's just take an example of a movie, and I'm just going to say Total Recall, just because that's the one that's in front of me here. So somebody comes up with, walk me through the process. So I've written Total Recall. Okay. Now I go do what with that script, and then when do you come in the process? How does that go?
The script came as a package. So it's not like, okay, we get 120 pages or 160 pages of blank paper. It came as a package, Arnold was attached, the producer was attached, the guy who was doing all the animatronics and everything that was attached, the director, everybody. So what we did, we came in and we were like, okay, so we're going to pick up this film. And back in the days, which you're talking about, 92 or 93, the whole movie was shot in Mexico, actually in Mexico City. We were going to a market, like a film market, I think at the time, it was the American film market in LA. It could have been Cannes in May, but one of those two, doesn't matter. So we went into the market to all of our distributors, and we basically raised the entire budget, the production budget, in pre-sales. Like we pre-sold the rights to all those companies, to all those countries, to have the money to make the film.
So how do you get somebody to buy that? Do you just say, hey, we got this kick-ass movie and Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to star in it, and then that's what sells it? Or do you have to give them a synopsis? How would you convince somebody to buy licensing rights to something sight unseen?
Back then, because the reputation of the company was called Carol Co-Pictures, was so big and so high that we would basically have a huge brochure. It was an oversized brochure, very impressive. And you will have you'll have kind of a resume of the story with the cast and blah, 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 whoever comes into place in the movie. And that was it. Some of them read the script, some of them didn't even bother. They knew we were going to deliver a big movie.
So the people who are buying the licensing rights, who are they? Are they film companies, or I'm
Yep.
very hazy?
Yes.
So like a 20th Century Fox.
Okay, it's like if you apply the distributors, network in America, which is now Warner Brothers, MGM, Disney, Fox, whomever, Paramount. Those are, I would call mainly the theatrical distributors, which of course they distribute their movies on digital, which is, the Netflix, the Amazon, the Hulu, Vudu, Tubi, Pluto, everything, and also on what we call physical, which is the DVDs, and then to do own pay TV stations and our own free TV stations. What the model that we have in America is more or less the same model in the rest of the world. So if I deal with Japan, for example, I'm dealing with a company called Nikatsu, for example. Nikatsu has been in existence for 110 years.
Wow.
They have their own television station. They have their own distribution network. They co-own theaters. It's what we have here is more or less the same thing. So the model that we invented in America many years ago has been kind of followed by the rest of the world. Although the Europeans were kind of early on the process because Pathé and all those companies in France or in England were ahead of MGM or Paramount.
Mm. So you go to MGM and I'm MGM and you present Total Recall.
Mhm.
And I go, yep, I'm in. And so then what happens is that I get the licensing rights and then the actual shooting of the movie starts.
Mhm.
Okay. And so let's say it takes a year for it to go through, shooting all of the sequences and then going into production and then, getting a date to be able to premiere.
Really release the film. Yeah.
Okay. So, and let's say if you do licensing rights for, 10 years and I'm Jim and you're giving me the licensing rights to Total Recall for 10 years, does the clock start when the production starts or does it start after the movie's released? That's the first one.
It's all negotiable. Usually it starts when the on delivery. When you start delivering the materials so they can actually release the film, that's where the term starts. And usually with a studio, it's not 10 years, it's more like 20 or 25.
And so since MGM owns the licensing rights, are they the one that is now shooting? I mean, obviously the producer, the star, everybody's on board, but is MGM, because they own the licensing rights, now shooting the film, or is
Nope.
that maybe no?
Nope.
Okay, so that would be like a 21st Century Fox or?
No, they are just the distributor.
So if you have, so there's an independent, I don't know the vocabulary in your industry.
It's
So
okay.
I'm trying to put it together. So bear with me as I'm all over the place. So, you have ABC, film shooting company over here, Mel's film shooting, whatever. And then you have, and you go to MGM and you go, hey, Mel's going to make a hell of a movie. It's called Total Recall. Buy the licensing right. MGM goes, yep, here's your money. And then what happens is that, somewhere in the middle, you get your money and then you pass it on and go, okay, this is, however much money you're going to have for the budget, go shoot your film, Mel. So I run out and then I shoot the film. And then it goes through production and then it gets all done and gets ready to release. And then at that point, it rolls back to MGM. Now, does MGM, I would assume, just like with music, they own the licensing rights in the effect that they can determine where it's shown and how often and make sure that they're getting any type of residuals from that? Or how does MGM make sure that they're getting their money for the licensing rights?
It's a common decision. I mean, when a movie gets released in the movie theaters, in historically speaking, everyone agrees. So are we going with 1,000 screens, 2,000 screens, 3,000 screens? How long are we going for? And what's the split week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4? I mean, that's how it works. And I can't really give you the exact numbers because it depends from one studio to another. Disney gets stronger numbers from AMC. MGM might not. Paramount might get good numbers. So I don't have all those numbers because they, and especially in the last 2 years, their fluctuation has gone, through the roof. So we don't even know anymore, which is okay. If Disney released the Avengers, for example, the next one, the big $350 million movie that those two brothers have been directing, they might be getting, I don't know, maybe 90% from the box office from the movie theater for the first week or first week and a half. And then they go 80, 70, 60, 50, and then it's up the screens. When MGM picks up a movie, or any studios that pick up a movie after the production, everyone agrees on the cut, on the either it's a director's cut or it's a committee cut by everybody's agreeing to the cut of the film, which will be the final movie. And then we'll decide of the release date. And the release date has to coincide with other release dates. So there's a whole competition going on. Summer usually is pretty good because in the summer, a lot of people go to movie theaters. In the winter, it's a little less. And then after that, you get your physical release, which is the DVD, which is mostly US, UK, Germany, Japan. Other countries is pretty dead these days. Of course, you got your Netflix, your Amazon, your Tubi, Pluto, IMDb, all those different video on demand companies that will follow through. That's today. Then you have Stars, Showtime, HBO, whatever, that will release the film. And then maybe ABC, NBC, CBS, or any of the free TV stations might want to buy the film as well. Everyone goes for a term. It's a short term, long term. It all depends how much money they pay.
And so that's the reason why opening weekends are such a big deal, right? Because now that you said that the way that the people who purchase the licensing rights, like MGM in the example that we're running with right now, because I can't think of any other big places besides 20th Century and MGM. But if you're saying that it's basically on a sliding scale as far as decreasing the cut that they get, that's the reason why the opening, because I can never understand, I got it where I'm going, okay, I guess they want to do it in summertime because there's, kids are out of school and they're going to go see movies or something like that. But I didn't know that, no, it was completely, which of course makes sense because it always comes down to money, that financially you want to pick the most optimum time to release it so that you get the biggest take home. So let's say that the sliding scale is set up, week one, it's 90%, then 80, then 70% the third week. So 70% in this example would go to MGM for the licensing rights that they purchased. Where does the other 30% go?
To the distributor. Like MGM collects that.
Oh, okay. So I got these reversed. Okay. So in this example, MGM is collecting the 30% and the 70% is going somewhere else.
No, hang on. Okay. Let's clear that up.
Yes.
You're releasing with Cineplex, Odeon, you were releasing with AMC, those are the chains, movie theaters chains in America or in America and Canada. We have more or less the same companies around the world. They call differently, but this is the same concept. If you take 80% or 90% of the box office the first week, the distributor, in this case, if you want to name, to name MGM, will take 90%, and AMC, the movie theater, will take 10%. But for everyone to understand, which is very important, if the first week or 2 weeks or whatever, this is when you get the most people in the movies, they buy popcorn, Coca-Cola, and all kinds of candies and everything. That's where they make so much money.
And that was going to be my next question, because I had always heard that the reason why popcorn and all that stuff was so expensive in theaters is because at the cost of the movies, to get the movies of the theater were so expensive. And then I heard that people said it was because you're trapped in there. So tell me why the fuck is it so expensive?
It has nothing to do with the cost of the movie, because it doesn't cost anything to have a movie theater having the exhibition of the movie. Maybe they have to pay a little fee or something, but that's nothing to do. This is right, because you're trapped in there, and maybe you may not want to air this one because this is a confidential information. I had several meetings with it, and say, yeah, you're going to a movie theater, so the cost of popcorns, that big bag,
right?
It's 6 cents.
Oh shit!
And they charge $4 or $5 or what? I mean, in LA, it's even more expensive than in Vegas or in New York or in London. But a Coca-Cola, big, the big gulp or whatever they call that, it's 15 cents. It's peanuts. All of them are doing the same thing. It's a scam.
So it is it is literally the fact that they have you trapped there and
Yep.
they know that you want to enjoy a beverage or some snow caps or some milk duds or some bullshit during the movie. And so they're just going to mark the shit up and that's it. So it has nothing to do. So if I'm a movie theater, for real, literally the bulk of my profit margin comes from the concessions.
That's correct.
So that seems like such a crazy model to
You
still
can't
have.
bring, remember, I mean, you've been into movie theaters 1,000 times. Can you bring food or drinks from outside?
No, you're not supposed to.
Exactly.
Sometimes people have big purses, Chris.
Yeah, you put your stuff in it. I get it. You know. But listen, I ran theaters. I ran 11 movie theaters on the Champs-Élysées in Paris when I was 21, and I caught people bringing stuff inside the movie theater. I kicked them out.
Oh yeah, which makes sense. But I guess I'm blown away that an industry such as movie theaters that of course got their asses handed to them because of COVID, as did many other, venues for music and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just shocked that if I own a movie theater, that my primary source of revenue seems to be coming from concession. So how is there a defensive strategy to that? I mean, let's say just for instance that, everybody's trying to be more healthier. And I know the concession stands have been trying to keep up with that and, maybe not sell you as bad food. But what happens if all of a sudden there's this huge trend towards everybody eating salads? Does the concession stand just flip over to salads? I mean, how would you protect that revenue stream? Like that just blows my fucking mind that's the primary source of income. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I understand that you have not traveled a lot to Europe or South America or Asia or whatever. This is America. In America, we are big on having food and drinks and super everything everywhere. So movie theaters are a perfect target for that. In the rest of the world, it's not exactly the same way. It's here, basically, mainly here. Maybe South America, because they kind of follow the American model. Asia, not as much because they are a little bit, different culture. In Europe, you might find some stuff to eat in a movie theater or a drink, but it's not a common thing to have. Here, it's huge. If you don't get popcorn and a Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola, whatever it is, to go see a movie, you're not a moviegoer.
So now that I understand, I'm making sure that as far as on the sliding scale of, how the profits are coming in. So in the example, week 3, it's a 70-30 split. So 30% of it would go to the movie theater.
Correct.
And 70% of it would go to, in this example, MGM, the distributor.
If that's the case, yeah. But, most of the time, I mean, unless it's a blockbuster, it's a huge film. Like, we're talking anyone from Avatar to Avengers to Mission Impossible to, I don't know, Indiana Jones, whatever. Those movies are mega blockbusters. They will require a higher split up front and then going down. But on an average in America, we're looking at 55, 50, 50 across the board for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, if you can actually live that through.
Mm-hmm. So, and you negotiate this, like you're the one who, okay. So how in God's name did you get, I understand, especially being in the financial sector, that there's somebody out there that handles that, but how did you even get involved in this business?
I come from France. So I was in school in Paris and I was doing my MBA actually in marketing and publicity. And I needed an internship to get some credits. So I sent my resume to a bunch of people, and a company called Gaumont, which is the equivalent of Warner Brothers here. They said, okay, you're going to come and, you're going to be an intern. And you're going to, at first, you're going to read scripts in 3 languages and give us report in French. And then we go, okay, fine. And after a little while, I found the job to be really boring. I hate reading scripts, by the way.
Mm.
And then they said, okay, listen, we need someone to speak different languages to run all the movie theaters on the Champs-Élysées in Paris, because the guy who was doing that before retired. And I'm like, hey, that sounds fun. So I went that, I went there, I did the job for about a year, and then I moved to LA. A complete coincidence. Everything was just a complete coincidence. I didn't choose the film business. I just landed in it.
So then you moved to LA, and
Yep.
you were coming from running movie theaters, but that's a far cry from what you do now. So
That's correct. I was hired by a company, and the company was called Interocean Film Sales. And the gentleman who's him and his wife who were running the company is Arnold and Ann Copelson. They did Platoon, and they did all kinds of films, The Fugitive and everything after that. They produced some really big movies. And back then in the 80s, when I was there, we had some pretty cool stuff, which were fine. We had Salvador with Oliver Stone. We had all good movies. And they said, okay, yeah, kid, because I knew some people in LA when I was in Paris, and they went like, oh, okay, they want to hire you, and you're gonna come over to LA and work for us. And I was like, okay. So I left.
and then that morphed into what you do now, or did you start doing something else there and then that morphed in?
No, you're gonna laugh, because you're too young. Do you remember a telex? You know what a telex is?
Is that the prompters? No, I don't. I think it's teleprompter. No, I'm sorry, babe.
No. It's not a teleprompter. A telex machine is something that back in the 80s, late 70s, back in the early 80s, it was like a piece of paper that you were going through a machine like a typewriter, and there was putting dots in a piece of paper that was this wide, and you would send across the world to someone else. It was the kind of the preview to a fax machine.
Okay.
But it was called a telex machine.
Okay.
And that's what I was doing for 6 months, sending telexes all over the world, because my English was not that great back then. I mean, my German was much better, and I was not in sales then. And then at one point, they thought like, okay, that's maybe a good idea. Oh, we're going to put him in a market, which I think the American film market, 1983 or something. I said, let's see what this kid can do. My first deal was in German. Everything was written in German because I didn't speak English well enough to do it in English. And I sold the shit out of that movie.
So basically, because I know that we've joked a couple times that we've talked about Americans just not really knowing a variety of languages. So they basically say, hey, you know what, we're going to let you step up and try to do this job. And your English wasn't very good. So I'm assuming you go to people who are German speaking, and nope. You just did it in German.
I didn't have a choice to choose my customers, my clients, my distributors. It happened that the first few deals were in German because that's where I kind of spoke the language much better than English. But I did stuff in French, obviously, because I speak French too, with the Spaniards, with Australians, with whomever, Japanese. But yeah, I mean, I was kind of limited. First of all, I didn't understand anything about film distribution, how it works. Like to give you a story, in 1984, was I 84, 83, Arnold Copelson, who's the owner of the company, comes to me in my office and puts a script on my desk and say, I want you to read this and let me know what you think. It is Academy Awards time. Number one, I had no clue what an Academy Award was. And because I was from not that business, so I had no clue.
Right.
And when I opened the front page, it's Platoon by Oliver Stone. And took me 3 months to read the script with a dictionary.
Oh my God, that sounds painful.
Yeah, it was. And after 3 months, I said, what do you think? He said, well, I think it's a great script, but what is Academy Award?
After you read the script, that's when you asked?
I said, what is an Academy Award? And well, history tells you that, he won Best Picture, Best Producer, Best blah, blah, blah. Martin Sheen Best Actor, and then Willem Dafoe Best Supporting. I mean, the movie got most of the awards that year, but it was so much fun because I had no clue. I didn't know.
So you read the script and liked the script and then asked what the Academy Award was. And
Yep.
then you went and sold the shit out of it.
Yeah, they was kind of sold. There was a company called Hemdale, which doesn't exist anymore. It was two British gentlemen who was running the company, who handled most of the U.S. Distribution and part of the foreign, and we did some of the sales in some foreign territories. But it was already pre-handled. It's like basically like Netflix comes in and they said, okay, here, how much is the movie? It costs $5 million. Okay, fine. I'll give you 5 million and 20% of that. So for you producers, and that more or less the same system back then.
So let's say that, you go and you sell the shit out of the licensing rights to a film. And then they go, okay, we're going to give you, I don't know, $10 million budget to do it. I like round numbers. They make me feel safe.
Fine.
And then then they give, you guys $10 million, you go make the movie, it flops. What happens then?
It happens.
It happens.
It happens all the time.
Right. So then MGM, basically going back to our scenario, just ate shit on $10 million.
No, it doesn't work that way. If you have a $10 million budget, first of all, you're going to try to amortize as much as possible before you find distributors. Like, for example, there are so many different countries, so many different states in the US and Canada and other countries where they give you an incentive, tax credits to shoot in their country or in their state.
Right.
Like Georgia, like Kentucky, Louisiana, California right now, not doing much. So basically you get 20, 25. Australia, they give you 45% of your budget. So you're reducing your cash exposure to as little as possible. Maybe you do a couple of pre-sales that covers, I don't know, 30 or 35%. Then you go to a bank and you ask for gap financing. It's in between everything. Mm-hmm. Then they represent the whole thing and they bank the entire budget so you can go and shoot your film. There's many ways to skin the cat, but the easiest way for a lot of people that are working these days is like, okay, I want to make a movie. I'm gonna have a nice cast. I have a good director. I have a fair budget. I'm gonna go to Netflix. Netflix is gonna give me 120% of my budget, so I don't have to worry about where the money's coming from. It comes from Netflix, and I got 20% to split among whomever is the producers or participated in putting it together. But that's it. That's the only 20% you will ever see for the rest of your life on this film.
So it's kind of like what we've talked on the show before. When you own a stock, when they do an IPO, that's the money that they get. But then if you buy that stock as an IPO, then when you sell the stock, you're going to recognize as the owner of that stock at that time, the gain or loss. And so basically if I'm understanding correctly, when they go in this example, Netflix bankrolls the production budget by 120%, and the 20% off the top is what goes to the directors and the producers.
No, just the producers.
Just the producers. And then after that, the producers are done with that transaction and they get no royalties, no.
Never, okay. Not a dime.
So who's more important, the director or the producer?
To me, the director.
Okay.
The director, it's like, unfortunately today we have cars that drive by themselves, but anyway, cars need a driver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The director is the driver.
So, because I always heard that the movie is actually made in post, and that
not necessarily.
No.
And it depends. What kind of films are we talking about? A futuristic movie, science fiction movie, huge action film, maybe. But if it's a drama, a thriller, a comedy, no, shooting time.
So, what is the best movie you've ever seen? It doesn't have to be one that you've licensed, like just obviously, or I mean, maybe I'm assuming wrong. Do you watch a lot of movies or no?
Yeah, constantly. And I can't say I have a favorite. It depends on my mood It depends of the month. I don't have one favorite. I mean, I change my mind all the time about movies. Movies is basically part of my life, obviously, because I've been doing this for 40 years. So I can't say I have a favorite movie. I have tons of favorite movies.
So do you think, and we talked about this a little bit prior to us doing this show. So a lot of the movie theater chains, like, have had gotten beaten up due to COVID, and they're still trying to recover. And now, of course, in the state of Nevada, everything's reopened up again. And there's, differences, vaccination rates across the United States are slowing, and there's a gap forming and all this other stuff. But what do you think the long-term effects of the COVID situation are going to be on the movie theater model?
Well, this is a question that all of us in the industry have been asking ourselves, because you as a customer, you're a customer to a movie theater. Are you rushing to movie theaters right now to watch a movie?
I am not.
Okay. You and hundreds of millions of people.
Mm-hmm.
So the impact is long. It's going to take a while before, they expect the film business as a theatrical business to somewhat 100% get back to what it was in 24.
Ooh, that's 3 years of trying to float a business. Holy shit.
That's right. That's right.
So do you think that obviously, and I've done Money Newses on this with Amazon purchasing MGM, and we're gonna get to that here in a second. But do you think that because of the delayed response to get everybody back to the movie theaters, that more and more of the movies, and I think it was like Steven Spielberg, and hopefully I'm not quoting him incorrectly, basically was pissed off about Netflix moving into the space, and he had I think it was around Academy Award time, and he basically said that Netflix movies weren't real movies because they weren't done, this traditional way. And like I said, it may or may not have been Steven Spielberg, but I'm pretty positive it was, because I was kind of surprised that he was a little pissed about it. So when you look at the Netflixes and, to some extent Hulu, which is Disney, when you're looking at like a Netflix, do you think at some point the movie theaters will just fold up and they'll move to just going to Disney directly, which of course we've done on previous shows. We've talked about Disney having 40% of the entertainment sector right now and 80% of Hulu. How do you think that Netflix is going to affect the movie theater chains themselves?
Well, two comments of what Steven Spielberg has said, which is, that's his quote. I can't understand why he's pissed. Spielberg is a theatrical director. He wants to bring his audience to a big screen to appreciate, like, let it be Jaws, let it be anything, Indiana Jones, whatever, Schindler's List. He's got this passion, Jurassic Park. He's got this passion for the big screens. He's like basically old school, but fantastic school to me. The movie theaters, the smaller movie theaters will eventually die because there's always going to be an audience of people going to movies because people want to get out of the house. If let it be you're 15 to 25 years old getting out of the parents' house so they can go see a movie with a girlfriend or the boyfriend or whatever, there's always going to be movie theaters. It's always going to be there. We had a kind of a resurrection of drive-in theaters, drive-in theaters, not only in America, in Europe as well. They're starting to put drive-in theaters because they figured out, we can't do it in a closed, environment. So we're going to do it in and everyone has Bluetooth. Everyone can hook up the sound system to their cars. The cars are pretty sophisticated these days, like basically computers on wheels. And it works. So movie theaters are not going to die. Some of screens, right now I think we're about 40,000 screens in America, but if you want to know, then in China, there are 500,000 or 450,000 screens.
Oh, wow.
This is huge. I mean, when a big movie gets released in China, here, when we have a big film, I think we platform at between 45 and 5,000 screens. I mean, basically you're eating so much real estate that's incredible. 60 to 70,000 screens in China. We are dwarfs here.
Why do you think that Americans don't consume that much media? I mean, media in that way, because we consume a lot of media just in that way specifically.
Well, we're only 330 million people, and 40,000 screens is not bad. If they have 400,000 or 500,000 screens in China, but there's 1.3 billion people.
Mm-hmm.
If you do the math, it's more or less the same thing.
So when you're talking about Steven Spielberg, it made me think of Frank Sinatra, who I'm a big fan of. And Frank Sinatra, oh God, I love Frank Sinatra. Dude, we are having a drink, Chris. We're going to talk about Frank Sinatra. We're going to have, you can have.
Oh, no. We're not going to talk about it. We're going to sing.
Oh, hell yeah. Yes. So I love Frank Sinatra. And, one of the things that happened is, of course, Frank Sinatra was always synonymous with the big band. And, as the music industry started moving away from the big band, Frank Sinatra made sure that he continued to record with a big band, even through all the way up until his death. He just refused to do that, as far as that's just where he stayed. So getting back to the drive-ins, because it's interesting you brought up the drive-ins, because we talked about before on the show that like Metallica did a drive-in concert right at the height of COVID. They did this a couple times. A couple other bands tried to follow suit, but quite frankly, Metallica is so fucking big that you just can't.
A friend of mine went to, I think it was in Calabasas in California, like about 2-3 weeks ago. And it was not Scorpions. Oh, Guns N' Roses.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Guns N' Roses. Yeah. In the drive-in, because they were, I don't know, they did this somewhere else in the States. So they had this by satellite all over the country, which is actually a cool idea.
No, and Metallica did one here, and I found out about it too late, and I couldn't find people to go. I think it was $130 a car, and I didn't want to go by myself and just be sitting in my car. Yeah. But anyway, so no, I did not go. But so if concession stands are the primary revenue stream for a theater, and you can somewhat control what people bring in, but if it's a drive-in theater, then you can't. So you just got to charge more per car, I guess. Because
that's why it was $130.
Yeah. Well, that, and also because it's Metallica. And I mean, I love Metallica, so I'm not going to talk shit about them. James, if you want to come on here, or Lars or Kirk or Robert, I'm here for you. But I'm just kind of curious, like if let's say that drive-in did have a real renaissance, I don't know. I'm always just fascinated when I look at anything, I pick up a jar of pickles and I go, okay, I wonder how much it costs to make that lid and how much it costs to make the jar and then the actual ingredients. And then I'm always trying to figure out like the moving profit margin on it, or if something's on sale, but obviously that's why I do what I do. But how would they even make their money on drive-in? Just per car, right?
It's very simple real estate property that doesn't require a lot of infrastructure, and it became even easier because you only have to have that box that you have attaching to your window or your door. Now it's all Bluetooth to your car, so the electronic involved is very simple. It's a big projector on a piece of land that usually is on the outskirts of a city,
right?
So it's cheaper. I mean, if you want to know how do you think, I mean, we live in Vegas, so Town Square, the AMC Theater, which is a huge building.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they own the real estate or they lease it. Can you imagine how much that cost?
Right.
A month?
Right, and that's not including overhead to run.
Oh, no. That's just the leasing part of it.
Right.
But if you have a piece of property that's like somewhere in the field in the middle of Ohio or Wisconsin, or in the fields of California somewhere, when you're outside of a city, which people don't mind driving to because it's kind of cool. But your piece of land is going to cost you $10,000 or 20 grand. So who cares?
Right. So how do you view Amazon's purchase of MGM?
Interesting move, because Fox was acquired by Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Warner is not about to sell to anyone. Who's left?
Yeah, and I think so. AT&T and Time Warner merged, but aren't they starting? AT&T's trying to sell off Warner now, or what's going on with that?
I don't have all the information on that, so I can't give you an intelligent answer yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I read something about that in passing, and then it was interesting because I also didn't realize that when AT&T and Warner merged, that there was some movies that that they couldn't have access to because they were still owned by Turner.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in my brain, I didn't make the connection that you can have something that's like I said, all the different branches of your industry are fascinating. And I mean, part of the show is I want to educate people on finances, but do it in a way that's interesting. Because I guarantee you, I mean, and if listeners, if you think I'm full of shit or you do know this, then feel free to call me out. But I guarantee you, nobody understands how any of this stuff happens. I have never heard of any of this stuff. And I was absolutely surprised that when the Time Warner and AT&T merger happened, that there was still rights that were held by somebody else. And then I just saw in passing a blip that AT&T was trying to get rid of Warner or lessen their relationship or whatever they did.
They might want to give up portion of Warner's for some reason. Turner has been a partner of Warner for many years because Turner Classic has been acquired at one point by Warner a long time ago. So all the Westerns and all those movies, they were acquired a long time ago. So yes, they may be the rights holders. Maybe there is a term on the acquisition. It could be 25 years, 30 years, 45 years. Some are public domain, so I'm not even sure if they can even claim anything, which you can buy at Ross if you want. Go to the DVD bin, you can buy them for like $2.
Right.
They are Turner Classic or Warner, whatever. It's $2. It's a public domain, so it doesn't belong to them anymore, unless they renewed the rights. It's possible that there's an overlap in the rights, and why? Unless I get into the lawyer's office and start looking at the contracts,
right.
I can give you a precise answer. I don't know what the deal was back then, so.
Yeah, no, yeah, and we don't want to do any of that legal stuff. So, So tell me, think of a story, and I'm sure you have wonderful, wonderful stories. So, and you don't have to give me star names, you don't have to give me any of that kind of stuff, but think of a story that just is, when you're sitting around drinking with friends or drinking with me, talking about Frank Sinatra, because we're going to make that happen. What is a story that you tell somebody that's funny, sans all of the name and discriminating information of the person?
Okay. Cap d'Antibes, that's the south of France, which is the Hotel du Cap, which is basically where all the celebrities stayed when they go to Cannes. At Carolco, we threw a huge party where we had like 400 guests, and we had the Gypsy Kings as the band and everything. So at my table, right next to me, I had a gentleman that I will name him, and across from me, there was another lady, Sharon Stone. My neighbor right next to me did a movie called Chaplin. His name is Robert Downey Jr. So he did plant 2 forks in 2 bread things, and he was doing the Chaplin thing right next to me, and we were dancing together on the Gypsy Kings. We laughed all the whole evening, and we had a really good time.
Lots of wine, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's a rosé. It's the south of France. Everybody's happy. And that's the evening that is a known picture that's been all over the world, is Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone dancing together on the Gypsy Kings.
So my mother fucking loves the Gypsy Kings, Chris.
Me too.
I mean, I think I've heard their music because when I was growing up, I couldn't escape it. You know, when you live in the house and your mother's playing whatever she's playing, and she fucking loves the Gypsy Kings, and she's constantly trying to figure out like when they're going to come to Vegas. Hopefully they'll come back to Vegas soon because my mother's going to have to go.
They're not together.
Oh no.
No, they live in the Basque country, which is southern France and Spain, but they're not together anymore. I wanted to hire them for birthday a couple of years ago. They wouldn't not even answer. So they're no longer really like a band. Maybe their kids might be able to do this, like the Gypsy Kings kids. But the Kings, I don't think they're really together anymore. I could be wrong, but listen, I hired them for a birthday party in Paris in '96. It was a beautiful party, and they went like, "Oh, we need something really exclusive." I said, "Listen, I hired the Gypsy King for 2 years in south of France for this huge calico party when we had every celebrity in the world." They were like, "Can you get them?" So yeah, I called the agent and said, "Hey, I want them. How much?" Blah blah blah. They agreed, and that was it.
So when you're hanging out with actors, I know that a lot of times there's alcohol involved, which I totally get. Are they assholes?
Well, first of all, on the alcohol comment, not necessarily.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of them don't even drink.
Oh, I guess when I envision a party, I just envision people drinking and letting loose. No,
this is not the '80s, darling.
Well, I liked the 80s.
Me too. You weren't born in the '80s. What are you talking about?
No, I was born in the 70s, dude.
Oh, good.
I was born in the 70s. So yeah, so in the 80s, I like wanted to be a groupie for hair metal, but I was way too young. So like I missed I came up with when yuppies were big.
Right.
With the Reaganomics and stuff like that, but I was too young to actually go do the really fun stuff. And then soon as I started getting older to do the fun stuff, grunge hit and everything got really depressing. And then it just fucking sucked. And then, when it started like picking back up again, then it was like I was past that stage and I was too old. And so I missed it. Like I timed it. I should have been born like in like maybe 69. And then I think when the 80s said I could have really like enjoyed it. But because I know that a lot of people have, actors that they love, like Gene Simmons. So Gene Simmons, obviously the bassist for Kiss, he's an easy target because he's very out there and he's so, larger than life. And a lot of people have met him who just said he's a complete asshole. Now I've never met the man. I don't know. Gene, if you want to holler at me. But I mean, in general,
I'm sure he will answer you. Go like, "No, I'm not. Bitch."
Exactly. I'll tell you what, Chris, if Gene Simmons wants to call me a bitch, I will fucking blow it up. I will fucking put it on social media. I will call my mother and be like, "Oh my God, Gene Simmons."
There you go. Good attitude.
Yeah. But I mean, in general, are they nice people or are they assholes?
Generally speaking, well, the actors that I've been dealing with over the years, from Eric Roberts to Schwarzenegger to whomever, most of them are usually pretty cool. Sharon Stone was at one point kind of a prima donna, but everything kind of went down because her career didn't go up; they went down. So apparently, according to a friend of mine who's done a couple of films with her recently, she's a super nice lady. So people change. It's not because they are like this at one point in their career and their life that they stay like this for the rest of their lives.
Right. Yeah. And we're all allowed to grow and expand. And, so I don't hold anything like that against them or anything. Well, Jesus, Chris, I really, really appreciate you coming on the show. I had no idea of the flow of any of the movie distributions, who does what. I know that there's been a lot of movement in this space with COVID. We have, like I said, Disney picking up a lot of companies. We have AT&T, we have Netflix, and we're seeing like this consolidation in the sector. And of course it's gonna, COVID's gonna have a large running impact through everything. And I just appreciate you so much for coming on. And at some point in the future, I'd love to have you back and share more stories as things develop, if that's cool with you.
No problem at all. That's going to have to be in September because I'll be back here in September.
Okay, no problem. Yes, you have to go jet set all over the globe. I'm going to stay here in Vegas, Chris.
Okay, well, good for you.
Thank you. Chris, do you want to give any details of where people can follow you on social media?
If they Google my name, they can find me.
There you go. I like that answer. You can follow us, Finance is the Other F Word. Check out our YouTube channel, and we appreciate it. So thank you so much, and we'll talk at you later.
You got it.
Thank you for listening. Please check back for upcoming episodes and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Finances, the Other F Word.